And greetings and welcome to the QCast. This is season 5, episode 22. And sometimes you have to skate to where the puck is going to be. That's what Wayne Gretzky once said. And yesterday, Coach Zimmerman, can you confirm that at 8:30 a.m., before any of the votes were tabulated in the D3Hoops.com top 25 poll, 8:30 a.m., I invited you to the QCast, not knowing the results of that vote. Can you confirm that, Coach?
That's confirmed, and I'll tell you, I was on. You wanted to do it yesterday. You wanted to record it
Correct.
yesterday before we had known that, and I had to take my wife to dinner because we were on the road
Right.
this weekend. So I had to push it to today. So that is true. That is true. We had it set up before we knew what was going to happen for sure.
I was I was pretty sure I was gambling, right? I was like, well, if I have Coach on and WashU's number one, I guess I look like kind of a jerk, but I was
Yeah.
just gambling that you'd win a close vote, and congratulations on being number one. Before I ask you about that, like, what do you think of this look right here? Is it a strong
I
look?
love it. It's a great look. It's a good looking shirt. Obviously, we like our gear, and I'm glad you could wear it. We're really happy to see you guys up at the Great Lakes Invitational. It was a special weekend for us.
But my statement continues to be that anyone that wants to send me D3 gear, I'll wear it on the QCast, except there's two buckets, except any CCIW school can't do it, and WashU. So,
Oh,
Coach
come on
Youngkin,
now.
Coach,
Pat's coming on. Pat's coming on the show in a minute.
yeah, but like even if he's probably not going to send me a shirt, but if he did, I mean,
Could wear it.
yeah, I got my Hardy Strong gear, I got my
Yep.
Hardy
Yep.
Strong putter cover that has a WashU
That's
logo
it.
on it, proudly in my bag, but can't wear the WashU gear.
I
But boy,
understand.
getting a little serious here, Coach. Number one rating, first time in program history. That's got to mean. I know that rankings are just rankings; they don't mean really much in real life. But boy, that's got to mean something. Number one for the first time ever.
Yeah, Bob. I have a quote I always tell our guys, I guess the last 18 years, if you're going to have rankings, we might as well be in them, right? First of all, we say, hey, they don't mean like they don't give us 10 points for our next game. We don't start 10-0 because we're ranked a certain place. It doesn't really help us in postseason, right? It doesn't help us to get in Pool C. But if we're going to have rankings, let's be in them. And we try to downplay it as much as possible, and not in a bad way.
Sure.
Just like we just got to be better, and we had to keep getting better and do what it takes to be a good basketball team. But actually, I will tell you, on the way out the door yesterday morning, my wife was going to work, and I said, we're probably going to be two or one, and I'd kind of like to be one, right?
Sure.
That was the first time I've actually probably said that out loud, and I only said it to her. Um, the best thing about it, Bob, was um, when we found out the amount of text messages, calls,
Right.
emails I received from former players, players who started the program at Emory in 1986,
Right.
um, guys who I know just because I've coached here a while now, my former players, my friends in the coaching business and profession. And to me, that's what the relationships that you build throughout your career is what matters. And I've had coaches in our conference, coaches that I've coached with, my former
Sure.
player. And it was interesting because I told you I took my wife to dinner. Well, we found out like on the way to dinner that so the phone was blowing up. So I had to like put the phone away, and then when we came back, when we got in the car to go home, I was able to read all the text messages to her because I mean, she's been along for this ride too, and it's yeah. So it meant a lot. It did. Just for the former players, our current players, our staff, we work really hard at
Right.
this, and it takes some luck, right? I mean, it took trying getting beat, right? It took some people, I mean, WashU, like, who's deserving? Like WashU's just as deserving as we are, trying. I mean, I watch, we see, and there are a lot of good teams that are deserving, but yeah, it means a lot for sure.
Yeah, it is a big deal. It's it means that the program's in a certain place to. I mean, it's hard to be ranked. What they say is it 39 programs have ever been
Wow.
number 39 programs have ever been number one. Emory now is in that list. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
Um, when the season started, Jason, I know that you guys were in the preseason poll in the UAA. I want to say you were picked, was it second behind WashU, and then Emory. So you
Yep.
know that when you're picked second in the UAA, you know that you're predicted to have a monster season. How did you feel about this group coming in as the bigger question? Like, did you see this happening? Did you feel you had like a top five type team coming in?
Yeah, I don't know if I could say we had a top five team or top 20 team. I don't know. I knew our practices were going really well. We were able to go to Spain in August.
Right,
So we got a couple extra practices there and we went to Spain and we were able to be together. And I knew it was a good feel of our team. And our practices early on were at a really high level. Um, Everybody, 1 through 15 guys, 16 guys on the roster. I knew they were at a really high level. Um, Now, like we just talked about, like, I don't know, it 1, 5,
right,
10, 12. I don't know who really does know, but I knew we were practicing at a really high level. But I tell you, the interesting thing here is last year we lost 9 games by under 4 points.
right,
And that wears on a team, right? That wears on players, that wears on a staff. Like um, and we did it in many different ways, right? Like, I mean,
right,
guys made huge shots against us. We made bad plays, whatever. And to be able to weather that storm and still come back with some confidence, still come back like, yeah, I thought we would be good. I think I've told you guys like it was a different feeling because we've had really good teams who finished the season really well, and we weren't ranked the next year as high as I
right,
thought. Like, well, we deserve probably a little bit higher just because of how we finished. This year was a little bit funky because I was like, I don't think we deserve to be second in the league because last year we weren't very good. We didn't finish. I don't think we deserve to be in the top 10 at the beginning of the year because we haven't shown that, right? Now that's why it's preseason and you have, guys
right.
are predicting what it's going to be. But it was definitely a different feeling for me as a coach who's been through all of it, right? Not ranked to rank
Right.
high, So yeah, it was a different feeling. But I knew we were practicing really well. I knew we had a great group of guys. We have some talented guys. Um, and so I felt good about it. But then with our schedule, you know this, Bob. Like
Oh
I
yeah,
looked at our schedule and I said, hey, if we come out of this first 8 games at 4-4, I think we're still fine because I
right.
mean what we have. And I wouldn't have predicted 8-0 for sure. You're crazy if you do that. But I think we've done a good job of taking one game at a time
Sure.
and playing well in each game. We haven't played to our top level yet, but we've played very well in stretches for sure.
Yeah, that 8-0 is the reason that you are number one, and it's been 8-0 versus a really good schedule. I look up and down as a voter. I struggle a little bit because everyone plays such different schedules. Not to call any teams out because that's not what I'm trying to do, but like you've played a lot of good teams, and there's some other people we're trying to evaluate that haven't played the toughest of schedules yet through 7, 8 games. You've played Barry, Guilford, at Kelvin versus John Carroll, Piedmont, Oglethorpe, Middlebury, Bowdoin. You take that 8 games across the board. That's a really tough schedule.
Yeah.
You're 8-0. Coming into the season, you had to be looking at that schedule like kind of like, what have I done to myself here? And kind of like, Coach Saul sitting
Yeah,
there with that Calvin team being
sure.
2-6, and with a different schedule, he could be 7-1, 8-0, right? Is that when you came into the season looking at the schedule, you knew this was going to be a tough first 8 games and more, correct?
Yeah, yeah, it gives you anxiety, right? It gives you like we may not win a game, right? Like all coaches feel that way, right? Like it's like the UAA. When I look at the UAA schedule, if I look at it as a whole, I'm like, how are we going to do this, right? Like, so you just have to take it one like, hey,
Right.
can we this game, right? Can we win the Barry game to start the year, right? And every coach says that. That's coach speak, but that's the only way I got through our schedule is like I can't worry about Calvin at Calvin yet because we have to figure out how to be Barry, right? And then we had to figure out how to beat Guilford, and both those teams are. And then we had to figure out, go to
Sure.
Cal. And so when you start looking bigger picture, you take away of like, no, we got to get better today, and we got to try to win this game And I think our guys, like I said, I think our guys have done a really good job of doing that this year. And I think last year really helps, right? Like
Right.
we were in every game. Like we had a chance to win every game in the
Right.
last minutes, if not minute. And so when you have that and you don't succeed, like guys understand, like, hey, this possession matters, right?
Right.
Like a good friend of mine would say, like, it's a paper money game or a change game. Like we were dealing with paper money, and we needed to pick up that quarter that's on the ground, and we'd win the game if we just pick up that quarter, right?
Right.
And so we tried to, obviously we talked through that, and our guys got older and they got a little bit more mature and they got better. And we're playing a little bit better defensively, and we're playing a
Sure.
little bit better offense. It's the margin for error is so small. But yeah, the schedule to start, our philosophy, my philosophy in scheduling, our philosophy is we just want to give the guys the best experiences that they can have. And playing in the Great Lakes Invitational is a great experience. We got to play at Calvin, two new teams, travel to Michigan to play. Great experience, right? We play Guilford every year. Tom's a good friend of mine. We play him every year. It's just a great game. He does a great job with his team. It prepares us. We're playing the UAA Challenge, UAA NESCAC in the UAA Challenge. And, Luke Flakersky at Rochester kind of had this brainchild long years ago, and we were all in on that.
Sure.
Jeff at Middlebury, we sat and talked on Saturday. Like, what a great experience, Like I've known Jeff, he's been in the business forever, right? I've known him forever, and to be able to play him and a different experience, different team, that's just how. And that's just my philosophy. Like I
Yeah.
want to have great experiences. I want to play great teams. I want to see these coaches that I've gotten to know, and I want to challenge ourselves that way. And that's what we've done. We've been fortunate enough to have the resources to do some of that. Um, and I think we've talked about this back in 2011. We were 20-5 and 11-3 in the UAA, and we didn't get in.
Right.
And people in the South region at the time were, well, your schedule wasn't good enough. Well, that's never going to happen again. So like now we may lose games, but that's part of it too. So yeah, I really have enjoyed that part of scheduling, and we've had we have good teams come down here to our classic, and we hope to keep that going in the future.
When I look at your team, I want to talk about your team a little bit. And when I'm voting in the poll, I when I'm looking at the top 5 or 10, I'm looking for teams that really don't have any glaring weakness of any sort. Can they score it? Are they dynamic offensively? Can they defend? Do they have some size somewhere? Do they have some size? And you've got that kind of team where it's hard to find some kind of big glaring weakness. And I just want to start with this freaky dude, Jair Knight. Because
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know why he's in Division 3 right now, and I'm not trying to, on my podcast, recruit him into some other division because I want him to stay in Division 3. This 6'2" junior guard, he's averaging 21 points, 5 rebounds, 7 assists. He's shooting 357 from three as this crazy athletic highlight film dunker guy. And I don't know how the hell you got Jair Knight to Division 3, but kudos, and just talk a little bit about this kid because he's about as special as it gets.
Yeah, everybody sees his highlight films, right? Like his dunks, and like Ben will throw him a lob, or he'll break away and go dunk it on somebody, and those are impressive. Don't get me wrong, like this. But he's a really good basketball player, right? And I told him that when he first got here. Like everybody talks about how athletic he is. Everybody talks about his body and how he can jump and how he can run. And then you watch him in practice, and he's like, "Hey, you can make the right play, and you see it, and he can pass it with his right and left. He can
Sure.
shoot a three. He can shoot a pull up. He can go to the ring. He can post up." And for me to watch him grow in the last 2 years from this guy who's like, well, he's just athletic. That's why he plays basketball, because he's athletic. No, he's a good basketball player,
Yeah.
right? And so that piece of it is really fun for me to watch his growth and maturity through his 3 years here, and watching him understand the game. Like he used to, like, if he didn't get a dunk in a game, he was upset because he like, I just want to dunk it, right? Like I want, and now it's like, hey, if he doesn't do things to help us win, he's upset, right? And if he gets a dunk, great. Like, So that piece of that maturity and that growth has been really fun. And he's become like a guy that our guys rally around,
Sure.
right? He can guard, he can really guard people. I mean, we can put him on a 1 through a 5, and he can guard all those guys. And he starts for us at the 4, but he could play a 2, right? So yeah, he's a fun guy to coach, right? And of course, he has tons of highlights, and I think Coach Flegel may send his clips to the data cast or whoever to put them
The
on.
D3 dunks because
Yeah,
they get there in a hurry. The
yeah,
guy dunks and 6 minutes later it's on the D3
yeah.
dunks. So it's getting there.
I don't. They send them all to me. I don't. They send all of them to me, and I laugh because last year he had a bunch of missed dunks, and he hadn't missed a dunk until this weekend. He missed 2, and I let him know about it. So
Well, at the
he's getting
GLI against Calvin, I thought just everything he does was on display in a couple sequences down the floors. Calvin was down 2, pretty late in the game. They were right there. They were making a run, and Owen Varnado is coming in from like the right corner, right wing, somewhere in there, and he's coming in to dunk it to tie the game. I believe it was to tie the game, and Jair had this highlight film like block that was just like clean on the ball. His elevation was unbelievable because Varnado's 6'6", 6'7", and Jair's 6'2". So and I think you'd agree he's not 6'2", but we won't leave. I'm not sure he is 6'2",
we
but
have that staff debate many
and then
times.
he
Yeah,
comes down like to basically he ends the game on a possession, maybe the next possession. He comes down, hits a 3 from like left wingish, and it's just to me that was such an eye-opening tournament because he looked like the best player in Division 3, and sky's the limit for this kid this year, right? I mean, he's just figuring it out, I
yeah.
think.
He had to make that block because he was out of position. So like he wasn't good defensive like or base, and so he has to make that. And I tell him that all the time. Like he makes these spectacular plays, but if he would be in the right spot, then he wouldn't have to make a spectacular play. So we get on him about that a lot, and we joke. There's a saying like he can do something that nobody else can do, but sometimes he doesn't do the things that everybody can do. So no, but I give him a hard time about that. But he can make those spectacular plays, and what that does is just gives us energy for our team, right? It can, uh, and I think to win at the highest level, like there's going to be a time when you can run the best stuff you got offensively, but you got to make a play, like
Right.
and you can run the best stuff you got defensively, and you could be great, but you got to make a play. If you look at the teams that win the national championship or
Yeah.
win the UAA, they have guys that can just when stuff goes bad, you
Yep.
can make a play. And we have a couple of those guys, I think, on our team this year. Jair is obviously one, but Ben Pearce has been first team all league in the
Right.
UAA, freshman and sophomore year. Him and Jair obviously a great tandem. Logan Shanahan's playing very well. He can make a play. AJ Harris has been playing
Sure.
well. And then, we bring right now, we're starting Albert, who's a senior, started for three
Yep.
years, like in and out. But we bring Kale Martins off the bench as a senior who started 73 games for us, right?
Right.
And Ethan Faust, who's a tremendous basketball player, we bring him off the bench at 6'9". Johnny Capolito is coming in. He's a junior, hadn't got any time, but he's just grown. So, like, we talk a lot about Jair, and Jair gets a lot of publicity and talk about him because of things he can do. But all of our guys have grown in that process, and that's it doesn't make you're not bulletproof. Like you can still get beat, but you
Oh yeah.
try to make that margin lower, right? So it's not like, well, Jair had a bad game and we can't win. Ben had a bad game and you can't win. Logan had a bad game, you
Right.
can't win. It's or we shot at poorly. Like this weekend at Carnegie, we shot 38% from the field. And I had a buddy of mine send me the box score and said, if I see this box score, there's no way you guys won this game. And well, we guarded better, right? Like we're
Right.
doing a better job guarding. We're more connected. And that's just the growth of a team. Like we try to speed that up. And I've tried to speed that up the last 3 years because we've started freshmen every year. And I try to make a freshman, a sophomore faster. And as a coach, you try to do that, but
Right.
there's nothing that experience is experience, right? Going through that. And so yeah, just really proud of, but of our guys, but you have to have guys that can make plays and
Right.
they make coaches look good, right? And those guys can do that.
Let's talk about Ben Pearce here for a second, because the interesting thing is I think coming into the season, he's probably a guy that had a little more pub and attention than Jair did. He's been a monster. He's a 6'1 junior guard. He's averaging 18 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists. He's shooting the three at 41%. So it's funny, you literally have two guys that are almost in the mix for like the best guard in Division 3. You have two of them, and they're very different players. They complement each other so well. They're very different players, but I, I guess maybe Ben Pearce all of a sudden is a little bit in the shadow of Jair because some of his dunks and things. But boy, like Ben Pearce is a superstar who also could be up for Player of the Year in Division 3. Talk a little bit about him.
Yeah, I think he runs our team extremely well, right? He doesn't have to be the guy that scores 20, but he can when you need it, right? And I think both of them and our other guys, Logan, Albert, AJ, they all understand like if the guys are playing, the whole is very powerful, right? The powerful of the whole group, right? And so when Jair, you got to guard Jair with more than one guy. And when that happens, somebody else
Yeah.
is has an advantage. And so for Ben, like you're guarding Ben with more than one guy. And if you're guarding Ben with more than one guy and you're guarding Jair with more than one guy, you only have so many guys,
Right.
right? And that's something I think they have done a very good job of playing off
Sure.
each other. And they are very different. Um, but they're both guarding better as well, right? And our team is guarding better and putting a little bit more emphasis on, hey, we're long and we have a long team, right? We can contest shots and we can guard you better. And so both of those guys really play well off each other. And you know, here's a great example, right? I tell people all the time, our team, like, if you want to get individual awards, your team has to win, right? So everybody has a pride, right? Everybody has an ego. And do I think Jair is one of the best players in the country? Sure. Do I think Ben is one of the best players in the country? Absolutely. But last year we were 15 and 10 and 6 and 8 in our league. And at the beginning of the season, neither one was on any All-American team. 5 teams, which I think is, yeah, well, we'll see. But they weren't because we were 15 and 10, 6 and 8, right?
Right. Right.
If we had been in the Final Four and we were 20 and whatever, and now Ben and Jair are both in, and maybe somebody else, right?
Absolutely.
So that's why this game is so special because you look at a stat sheet and a stat sheet is very individualized. How
Yeah.
many points did you have? How many rebounds did you have? But it has nothing to do with winning the game, right? This game is a team game. It's a collective effort, but it's very individualized when you look at a stat sheet or you look at like what we talk about. We talk about Jair, that's very individualized. Jair
Right.
can't do that without those other guys, right? If those guys aren't on the court, there's no lane to the basket to see it
Right.
done. If there's so and the amount of care that our guys have like for each other. I'm not saying that we're perfect by any means. Like we have issues. Like in practice, they compete and they get after each other. But they do really care about each other. And that's special. And when you have special players and they care about each other, like I said, the power of the whole is really good.
You,
So
you mentioned kind of the whole nucleus, and you've got a really cohesive group going. You start Jair Knight, Ben Pearce. We mentioned them, 6'2 and 6'1 guards. Logan Shanahan provides really good size. He's a 6'7 senior forward. You start AJ Harris, who's 6'5, kind of a wing player, and Albert Fallis, who's a 6 foot senior guard. And then you're basically playing an 8 man rotation currently because you bring Cale Martins, Ethan Faust, and John Capolino off the bench. So you've got this 8 man rotation. It seems like roles have very quickly developed in terms of who's coming in the game and what their role
well, you
is.
say
It
quickly, Bob, but it's been 3 years in the process.
feels
Like
quick to me. It
it's
feels
quick.
quick to
Yeah,
me.
yeah,
It,
it's
it
quick
seems
for
like
sure.
it looks darn good to me, coach. It feels like it's taken 2 weeks. You know what I'm saying?
Sure. Yeah, I think yeah, we try to constantly get better, right, in our roles and I think I could start any one of those guys. Like and starting to me, and coaches always say this, but starting to me is like I've made a petition. We should do away with starting lineups. Like we shouldn't introduce the starters, like all this pomp and circumstance nonsense. Just- Let's just done with warm-ups. Horn goes off, let's go jump ball, right? It's just the first 2 minutes of the game, 3 minutes of the game. It doesn't matter. Like you do all these dang dances and nonsense. Who cares? Like, come on, let's just go play. So, but we could start 8 guys, right? And as we go through this period, it's an interesting period in Division III basketball for us. For example, we don't play again until the 29th. So last year we were playing decent before the break, and we came back from the break. Now your schedule gets a little tougher. Last year our
Right.
schedule got a little bit tougher. But there's a break. Like we go home, we'll practice till the 16th. We go home for 8 days or so, and then come back and we play 2 days after we come back. So you got to jump right back into that. And people who aren't involved in the teams don't understand that. Like, hey, it takes like there's a callus to playing,
Right.
practicing every day and getting hit every day, competing every day.
Sure.
You go home for the holidays and you get away from that callus, like that hitting every day, the running every day, shooting
Right.
every day, defending every. Now you can do your workouts at home, and as all our guys do, but it's not like being together. And then you have to come back and crank it up within 2 days. We play Keene and Union, and then go to Christopher Newport, and then we start UAA. So that piece of it, we constantly, 18 years I've been here, and we constantly reevaluate what we do in that time, right? Like,
Right.
and so yeah, like the roles have gelled, and I would like to play more guys. I in practice, guys have earned time. Um, but like we've been playing pretty well, and when you get that
Right.
rotation, but we're going to need everybody. Like there's two. I mean, we got 16 guys, and we're going to need everybody at some point in time in the year. You just don't know injuries and
Oh yeah.
fatigue and the UA schedule. But I really like how our guys are buying into what they're doing, and as a coach, you constantly got to. It's kind of a selling point, right? You got to sell their role, right? Sell your role. So this is what we do to be better. And when you're winning, it's easy, right? It's easier. It's not
Right.
easy. It's easier. Like last year, it was harder, right? And it's because everybody thinks they can play, right? And they can, but
And that
so
schedule you mentioned, so the 29th and 30th, you're off for a while here. 29th and 30th, you guys host your Emory Holiday Classic, LaGrange versus Union, Emory versus Keene, and then Keene versus LaGrange, you guys versus Union. You mentioned on January 4th, you go up to Newport News, and that's going to be one of the kind of the D3 games of the year. Circle that. So Emory at Christopher Newport, Power playing Power. And then January 11th, UAA starts. And what I like is your league is like the CCIW used to be before we added the ninth team. It used to be you played non conference from opening day until about January, whatever. And then every game the rest of the way was a
yeah,
CCIW game. Now, like we just played 2 league games in
yeah,
early
I saw
December,
that.
which to me
Yeah.
I still really hate. I hate that, but I love that you guys are like all UAA. So let's talk about UAA because the league's been the best league in Division III for several years now, like 3 4 years. I'd say this whole like COVID year era. um Emory is rated number 1 right now. WashU's rated number 2. NYU's rated number 7. Carnegie Mellon's rated number 19. I saw our guys play Chicago. They're really good. Brandeis, Rochester, Case Western Reserve, a little bit up and down. I'm sure all of those will figure things out, more good than bad. So your league this year, again, I guess we talked about the same thing last year. Your league's crazy. How do you sort of assess competing in the UAA this
Yeah,
year, Jason?
you talked about those teams. Like Brandeis is dealing with some injuries right now. Luke's dealing with some injuries at Rochester, and Case Todd will figure it out. As he has with his fifth year guys, he'll figure it out. And also when you get into league play, you know each other so well, right? Like
Right.
so, yeah, CCIW, everybody knows each other. Like we know each other so well.
Yep.
So it's totally different than league play. I mean, than non-conference, right?
Absolutely.
And you play each other twice, and you're traveling, and you're yeah, it's it's fun, right? I mean, it's a really deranged definition of fun, right? But it's fun. You get to go
Right.
compete at the highest level, and and you get to experience these great cities, great coaches, great players that all respect each other and they respect how hard each other that competes. So yeah, I just look forward for it every year. You know, we got to. It's great because we got to go to Carnegie, and I got to see Tony and see Carnegie play,
Right.
and but that competition in the UAA is, I mean, you can't get any better. And you
It's
know,
great. And talk
there's
a little
always a
bit, Jason,
debate
about
about.
that
Go ahead.
familiarity in the league. I'm interested in that because we see that play out all the time. Is you get in the conference and teams guard you differently. Like I'm thinking of like we played Wisconsin Platteville. They're rated like 4 or 5, and we beat them by 20. And then Carthage and Carroll, we just played back to back,
Yep.
and they guarded us totally different. Both of them had a similar game plan. It was just like it was a grind from the get go, both games.
Yep, for
And
sure.
I'm interested. What is it about? What is it about the league games? Is it just that you're so familiar with the teams, or talk more about that?
Yeah, I think, you go into, especially as you get older, right? Seniors have been into WashU, Chicago, like they've been into those, like it's not new for them, right? Hey, we've been in this hotel, we've stayed here, we've had this game plan, we know what it's like. Like, so there's nothing, you try to get that routine, right? The routine of playing.
Right.
And like in our league, the coaches stay around a long time. So, Tony and I were joking. I was going to run Tony's practice in Pittsburgh. He was going to run my practice. We both know what each other does, right? And so, you're not going to change a whole lot. No, you tweak it for sure. And you have different guys, but like you kind of you are who you are, right? And then when you get in the league, it's not like sometimes you go play WashU, and like, oh my goodness, you're playing WashU. Well, okay, they're in our league. We play them twice. Okay, we go play Chicago. Okay, we play them twice. You go play Rochester. You play them twice. People play Emory. You don't play us twice, right? And so you just get into this rhythm and the
Sure.
players know each other so well, right? The players know
Yeah.
each other so well. The coaches know each other. The players know each other. And then it just becomes like, yeah, like the gladiator kind of stuff. Like you're in an arena and you're just competing, and
Right.
it's
The
special.
intensity is different between a conference game and a non-conference game. The intensity, it's just palpable when you're even watching it on a stream how different. And I thought
And
about
Bob,
that this weekend.
that's why we schedule like we do, or we try to, because Calvin at Calvin was like a UAA game. Like
Absolutely.
playing Calvin at Calvin is like a UAA game, right? Like it's, we scrimmaged. This wasn't even we scrimmaged Hampton Sydney. So before the season even started, we scrimmaged Hampton Sydney, and we were talking earlier about when you knew, like, hey, you think you could be pretty. Like when we scrimmaged Hampton Sydney, I said, hey, we got a chance to be pretty good. Like they're pretty good. Um,
And
and
they are
then
pretty good.
yes,
They're
they're pretty
really
good.
good.
And they didn't have their big guy when we scrimmaged them, so it was like. But I thought, man, we have a chance because of that. Then we played Augusta at Augusta Division II school.
Beat
So
them.
yeah, and but they're bigger, strong, like they have athletic
Yep.
guys, and to be able to handle that and then be able to go like playing Guilford, Barry was in the NCAA tournament. So we try to prepare for the UAA like that. Like
Yeah.
so when you go play Rochester comes here for the first game. It's not the first time where you've got a team who's
Yeah.
game planned you and are tough enough and strong enough, and they know what Jair does, they know what Ben does, they know, and that's when it comes down to, hey, you got to have some guys that can make plays outside of just something that's comfortable for them. And so the
Yeah.
UAA is like that. Like you're going to have to go to your second or third level of stuff to win, and
Right.
that's what
Well,
basketball is all about, right? Like, come on.
I've watched WashU several times this year, and they're really fantastic. They have kind of two pieces that are different this year. Number one, they got their stud back, Kynes Vader. I always don't know if I'm pronouncing his name right. Drake. They got Drake back, and he's awesome. They have this freshman kid, Connor May, who's fantastic. He's come in and he might be averaging 12, 13 points a game as a freshman right now. And he's from Palatine. He's going to be awesome. And then they have all those talented guys back, Hayden Doyle and Yogi and the big kid that looks like Jack Sikma and all these other guys. Like they're so I
You're
can't
not
think of.
making me feel good here, Bob.
No,
Like
you should. You
it's
shouldn't feel
like,
good at
come
all.
on.
Your league, the top two in the league, that's as good of a 1-2 punch as I
All right.
think you're going to find in Division Three. That's a great combo there, right? I mean, Emory and
Yeah.
WashU, tremendous.
So you talk about them. I don't get to watch a lot of teams in our league yet because we're getting ready for and I just don't have time to watch. Like I've watched maybe a couple minutes of I don't even think I've watched Walsh at all yet. I've seen a couple minutes of Chicago. We saw Carnegie. I saw a couple minutes of the Tufts Brandeis game on the airport on the way home from the so when you look at it, just again, when you don't break it down, you're just watching. You're like, how? I don't know. Like, I don't know how we're going to win a game. But it is fun. Like that's, Pat does a great job, and I told him he's done a great job since COVID. Dealing with Hardy situation, and it just,
Yep,
there's just a lot going on that Pat's done an unbelievable job with the program and staying at a really high level. And guys in our league, like our league, everybody in our league has done such a good job at staying at a high level. Which makes it, I don't know. People can debate what's the best league in the Division Three, all that. And yeah, that's up for you guys. You guys debate it all you want. That's fine. I just know our league's really good, right? Our
it's a
league's
great
really
league.
good from top to bottom. And there are other leagues out there that are really good from top to bottom, and our league's really good. It's a great experience.
Yeah, I think your league, the separator right now. I mean, first of all, the top is amazing, but the separator is how good the bottom is. I like last year when you looked at I can't even remember who exactly finished last, but like 7 and 8, 6, 7 and 8 were really good teams. Like top 70 type teams, top 75 teams in Division Three, something like that. And that's where it gets really scary. I do think that it'll be a great race. I think there's multiple teams that can win it. I'm not voting for Carnegie Mellon, and when I submitted my ballot, I'm like, how am I not voting for? I couldn't find a team to take out of the top 25 that I had because they're a top 25 team for sure, and I need to get them in. And December 19th, clear your calendar. You can watch WashU at Illinois
I,
Wesleyan,
I,
and
I
that'll be
will
a good one,
because we
right?
won't have a game, so I'll definitely watch that game for sure. For
Just
sure.
kind of in closing here, Jason, I appreciate all of your time. I know that you're right in the heart of it right now, and you got a lot going on, and but great stuff going on, right? Sitting here number one, and even though we talked about that doesn't help you get in the tournament, it means a lot for the program. And just huge congratulations on my end for where you've taken this thing. You got the basketballs behind you. I think that's a basketball for every NCAA appearance. Is that correct?
Yeah, they get when you go to the tournament, they give you a basketball as like a souvenir. And so I was like, what the hell am I going to do with these things? So I just started putting them behind me. And then the next thing you know, it's grown into too much. But it's important when guys come back, they get to see it and they
Sure.
come up with the pictures. And again, that's why we do what we do. Not for the basketballs, but the guys, the relationships we have with our guys. And it's important for them to understand it. And yeah,
And I
but
do have to ask you
I
before I
don't
let you
think
go
they
too.
I don't think they know it. They know I'm not a baseball coach when they come in here or a volleyball coach.
There's no
They
question
have
what
to have
coach.
basketball to do.
The QCast attorneys have asked me to ask you that when I get my act together, like the DataCast guys, and I make some T-shirts, these guys, the DataCast guys, they have a marketing machine going. When I get my act together and I make a QCast shirt, I would like to put a quote on there, and the quote I'd like to put on there is "Good basketball is good basketball." Do I
I
have
like
your legal approval to put that quote on a QCast shirt someday, Coach Zimmerman?
Just make sure you footnote me. That's all. Just make sure you footnote
I
me. And
put a
then we
little
can add it.
JC right there.
Yeah, JC, that's it. And then we can add like bad basketball is bad basketball too, because we played some of that too, like we've played some of that. And but yeah, we've talked about this. Our level is really special. I really enjoy coaching at this level. And now, don't get me wrong, we'd all enjoy coaching at different levels, but our level, like, sometimes people look down their nose at it and okay, come and watch the WashU Illinois Wesleyan game, and tell me that those dudes can't play, right? And come and watch, our guys play. And The amount of care that they put into their game and work that they put into our game and our coaching staff, like, I'd be remiss if I didn't say like we have I have one of the best coaching staffs in the country. I
You do
think
have a great staff.
Jacob Fliegel's been with me for 4 years now. Chad Hickson played for me and is back with me. He was with us, for a couple years in like 2012, 13, right in there. And then I got Charlie Kopp, who's been with me for 10 or 11 years now, played at Penn. So like they are part of that, like being ranked number one, being better, being ranked number one, like that process, that continuity in our program, the pride in what we do, and those guys have been phenomenal. And like I said, our players make coaches look good. My staff makes our coaches me look good, and I got to have those guys, right? You got to have those guys that make you look good, and I'm just really happy. Well, I'm just blessed to be with those guys.
Well, tell Jacob I'm waiting for him. He told me he was going to set up he's going to get some assistant coaches from around Division 3 together to do a QCast, an assistant coach QCast. He's talking about getting DJ from Grinnell and some others. So tell him that's on as soon as he comes to me with
Okay.
like it's on. I want to do that. That's cool.
Perfect.
Um, so yeah, congratulations so much. And this is going to be a great season. I feel like we're in another one of these years where you look at the top 25 and you feel like 1 to 25 is a wow. And the teams that, again, I mentioned, I'm not even voting for Carnegie Mellon, and I don't know, maybe they're as good as the team I have number 12 or something like that. So this is one of those years. I'll let you close us out here, Coach Zimmerman. Anything else you'd like to add? You got the Eagles Nation tuning in, D3 Nation, all your coaching buddies hopefully tune in. What would you leave us with today on the QCast?
No, I just really appreciate what you do for Division 3 basketball and basketball in general, like the excitement that you guys bring. And I watch all the comments that guys talk about, following your show, the Snyders, the Datacast stuff, the D3 Direct with Carl, Ryan up at Great Lakes, and that's on top of like D3
Pat
hoops,
Coleman, Dave
right?
McHugh, the
Yeah, like
OGs.
Dave
Yeah,
McHugh and Pat and those guys. And I just think that the combination of all you guys, in my 18 years here, it's just grown so much. And it's really, it means a lot to our players, right? Our guys deserve recognition, like
absolutely.
not Emory. I'm not just saying Emory, but our
Yeah.
division deserves that. The podcasts are great. I listen to them when I'm running. I listen to different guys, and a lot of them are my friends. And so I just really appreciate you taking the time to do it. And all those guys that we mentioned with Dave and Pat and those guys as well. We just really, all of us at Division 3, all our basketball coaches, we really appreciate what you do. And it's fun to debate. Like I said, we can debate all we want, but we have to go find a way to win on December 29th, right? I wish like being ranked number one gives me 10 points when we start on the 29th. I don't think it does that. But we're very proud of it and excited and for our program. And we really appreciate all that you do.
I appreciate that. And, for the QCast viewers here last year in Fort Wayne, Coach Zimmerman kind of pulled me outside for a little cigar chat. I was a little bit vocal about some UAA NCAA tournament records. So let's go have a cigar. Let's talk about this. So we had a little moment. It was beautiful. We talked it through. I think we got in a good place. On the QCast, just so folks know, we've got Caleb Kimbrough from Hampton, Sydney, joining me Friday morning, and Pat Yuckham from WashU next week in advance of the Illinois Wesleyan game. So we got some cool shows coming up, and I'm always open for some random person to say, "Hey, want to do a podcast?" I would do it. So, Coach Zimmerman, you're awesome. You're great. Appreciate all of your time always, and good luck to the Eagles as you guys start to play games now as number one, my friend. Good luck to you.
I appreciate you. Thanks. Have a great holiday, and we'll look forward to seeing you, I'm sure, down the road here.
See you soon, buddy. Thanks.